Okay, to start with insert statement, I have to tell you there are types of insert statements like what we discussed in create statement and in alter statement. Here in insert also we have list of types. So type 1 is only the values. Okay, so you're trying to give only the values and it is trying to populate the value inside a table. The second time is prompt out for each input. Okay, so in a table you have three columns, and for each column it is going to ask you, it is going to prompt, no, pop out a window where it will ask for the value. Okay, that how do you do that? So that is one type of insert statement. The third type is respective columns and values. So you give a list of columns and then for that particular list of columns you give values. So you don't, populate all the columns in a table, you try to populate the listed columns. Remember, there is one thing, you cannot skip the not null column here. If you're trying to do a selective input, like insert on certain set of columns, then you cannot leave out the not null columns in option. Those are not optional, those are mandatory columns. You have to have all the not null columns in the column list and their corresponding values. And the fourth type is insert with select. So how do you create a table with a select statement? Here again, with a select statement, you can insert the values as well. How do you do that? That also will be same. And the last type is insert with select by list of columns. So you do a insert by the select statements, but you do it not just for the whole table. You select certain set of column values, and only those selected result will be pushed into another table. Okay, so how do we perform all these 5 types of insert statements is about this class. So let's take about the first type, only the values. Okay, this is the statement syntax. Insert statement, insert into the particular table, in which table you want to insert it. And values is a keyword. In the bracket, you have to list out the values. So for this type, you are not having an option of a selective columns. Okay, so if this table is having 20 columns, then you are supposed to give 20 values. Okay, so insert into table values, you are going to give 20 values if it has 20 columns. If it has 100 columns, then you are supposed to give 100 values. Okay, so again, giving the values, how does it work? So if the first column, let's open this table, test table 1. Okay, so we have opened the test table 1, and we have how many columns here? So I have made it like this. So whenever you run a statement, you're going to see the result on the top. So it will be easy for us to list out the insert statements. So now I'm going to run this statement. Okay, so how many columns do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have given 5 columns, and let's go and click on the columns. Okay, there are 5 columns. See, the first column is of number type, right? When you have it in number type, you can just give a value like that, 101, 102, you can just give the value. If those are string values, either it is a varchar2 or a character type. See, the second column, third column, fourth columns are all varchar2 and character, string type, right? It is a string. String means in words, in alphabets and or alphanumerical ones. So those are the values which you're supposed to populate inside a single quotes. So that's why after the first value, okay, 101, comma, the second column value, you're giving it in the single quotes. Okay, and then comma, the next value is also varchar 2, so you're supposed to give it in the single quotes. The next one is character, again inside the single quotes you have to give, and the last one is number, so we have not given under, so only the number are not requiring any this thing. All the strings are supposed to be given, string values are supposed to be given under single quotes. So let's run this. Okay, one row is inserted. Let's go to data and click on refresh. Yes, we have inserted a row. Let's go on to the next one. One more simpler example. Let's run it. Refresh here. Yes, right? The second row has also been populated. So what if I don't want to give a value? So go back to this column list. All of these columns are nullable. Yes, there is no null constraint at all. This is test table 1. Remember, all test 1 and test table 1s are not having any constraints. So nullable, yes. You are not having any non-null columns here. So can I leave some columns as blank, like null? Okay. So let's go and try that. So what I'm going to do is in the third insert statement, I'm going to give a null value for the last. See the last column, I'm giving NULL. And Oracle is very brilliant. This is a keyword, so it understands the word null. Okay. So let's see. It is not a value. NULL is not a word because strings are supposed to be represented inside a single quotes. I have not given any strings. I have just written NULL, means I don't want anything. It is an empty thing. Okay. So I'm going to run this statement and go back to data. Let's see if the third record has been, yes. So you have a record with null value. So inside the bracket, can you see null? So it means that there is nothing there in that particular column for the third record. Okay, so this is a type 1, which is very simple insert statement. Insert into which table you want to insert, then values inside the bracket. How many columns are there? 5 columns, you give 5 values. Okay, pretty much very straightforward insert statement. Let's go to the type 2, which we discussed. Okay, so type 2, what it is going to do is it is going to prompt us. For each value, it is going to prompt us. So insert into table name. Yeah, insert into table name values. We have given this prompting. How have we defined it as ampersand symbol and symbol? Okay, ampersand is the symbol and then the column name. So the first column is test ID, the second column is test name, test code, test subject code, and test subject mark. So again here these are values, right? We are giving the ampersand and the column name to ask. Okay, why are we giving it? To ask us. Okay, so again it is all value, so numbers need not be given inside the single quotes, but the rest, all the middle 3 columns, test name, code, and subject code should be because varchar to and code, so it should be given inside the single quotes. Let's run this. Okay, yeah, see, enter value for test ID. So why we gave there as ampersand test ID is this enter value for is comment. This test ID is something here, whatever we have given, the first column name. So we should know when it prompts out, we should know what are we actually trying to give, right? So it has prompt out and then we are looking enter value for test ID. So the first column is test ID. And we have already given a list 101, 102, and 103. Let me go ahead and give 104. Okay, the next one is test name. Just give any name. So I'm going to give it as 104. Name with a reference in the screen you can see like 101 is 101 GRP1, 102 GRP2, 103 civil, like that. We have different combination. Test name is a combination of test ID and test code. So I'm going to replicate 104 with some test code. So 104, I'm going to give as CVL. Okay, so let's give some value as 104 CVL or something new, CQL. Okay, CQL. Okay, and then what is the test code? We have already given CQL, right? So let's give CQL itself. So test name is a combination. We can see that test ID and test code are the combination of test names. So we have given that. And subject, you can give any subject. I'm just giving ENG, English, and then mark. Um, okay, give me some 77. So click on OK. It said it has got inserted. Let's go and refresh it. Yes, whatever we have entered, it has come out. So this is the second type. It prompts out for all these. So if you want the insert statement to be interactive, so in real time, these things will not be helpful because we'll be handling more number of records. So if you want to play or practice and be consider the database as another person and you want to be too interactive, then you can try all these things. And the third thing is respective columns and values. These are the mostly used insert statements. You will be selecting a set of columns and only for those columns you'll be trying to populate the values, right? And again, remember, if you're selecting the list of columns inside the table to populate values, do not miss any not null columns. Okay, so what I've done here is insert into the table name. In the bracket, I'm actually selecting the list of columns. Okay, so these are the list of columns which I want to, and values, giving the values as keyword, and then I'm giving the values. So insert into table name, and then list of columns, values, and then give the list of values. Okay, let me go ahead and since there is no constraint over here, we can try to duplicate also, no issues. So let's run this statement. Okay, it said it got run. It got inserted. Okay, so this record has got inserted. So you have selected all this. For the demo purpose, I've selected all the 5. You can select respective columns also because we don't have any constraint here. So no issues. You can select only the wanted columns and then you can run. Okay, the next one, what we are going to see is insert with select statement. Just like the create statement which we saw, here select star from all test 1 and then insert into all test 2. Okay, so you're selecting the all the data from all test 1 and you're trying to populate into all test 2. Okay, for that, we are supposed to have something in all test 1, right? So let's open that all test 1. Let's include something here. As we did early, it is just I'm using the feature. Do not try to do this. Best practice is to know this thing. So, okay, so now all test 1 is having this data and all test 2 is not having any data here. Can you see? So now let's run the select statement insert. So type 4, run it. Good. So we have, let me close the last tab. Okay, so we have data. We have done the insert and let's go and refresh. Yes. So whatever has been in the all test 1, now in all test 2 also, we got it inserted. The last type is selecting a list of columns. Okay, instead of doing a select star from, can you do a select of columns also? Yes, you can do. Select column from where test code. Can you write a select statement like this and then try to insert into a table? Yes. So here I have selected test ID and test name. Only 2 columns I have selected. Same way the select statement also should have only 2, right? So what are the things which you are selecting? You're going to populate only those particular columns. So how many are actually there in test table 2? 5 columns are there, but I'm trying to populate only 2. Let's run this. Okay, I think there is a unique constraint error. So this is good to know an error. So unique constraint error has been violated in test 2. Let's go back on test table 1. Test table 2 doesn't have, but test table 1. See, there are two entries for 103, which is having the code as civil. See, test code civil we have given. That's why. So let's change it to no, something which is you're not supposed to see. We have given a constraint on the second table. So first table one and no all test one and test table one, we didn't give any constraint, so there is no problem in duplicating. But table two has the constraints, the primary key and all. So what happens? Let's change this for which is not actually duplicated. Let's say put BRP one. Okay. Now I'm going to run this. It has got inserted because GRP1 is again only one record here. So obviously it will get inserted. Since there was two record with CVL, it didn't know which one to choose. That's why that error. Unique constraint error are nothing but you're supposed to insert only one. There are two records here as CVL. Which one I should select and which one I should populate there. So that was the machine's confusion. That's why it gave that error. Now that we have given as GRP1, which is only one record, it was very clear. Okay, there is only one record. I'm copying all these things and pasting it there. So only two columns, test ID and test name. Let's go back on table 2, which we are populated. Yes, see, test ID and test name has been populated. Rest all I did not select. So it did not get populated. So it is all null. Is it all nullable? Yes. These all the four columns are nullable. Only these two are not nullable, which we have populated from test table 1. Okay, so this is all about the insert statement. We have seen the list of 5 types of insert statements.